I got a fat auntie that's so mean, man. My dad says, because can't nobody get to that thing. That ain't none of my business. You know what I'm saying? I've been getting in trouble for my interviews, man, so I'm so honest, man. I really don't be giving a fuck. But then you got like my media team and all that. Yeah. I walked into my agency office and they were like, "What is your problem?" And I was like, man.
How did you get involved with that show, Detroiters?
The show Detroiters came around. My agent had mentioned it to me, like, yo, they're doing a show. Lauren Michaels is producing it. He's like the creator of SNL with Jason Sudeikis, who's like one of the executive producers. Mm-hmm. And then their whole team at Broadway Video. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, you think they'll let me come on as a writer? He said, well, they already got writers. I'm like, nigga, they ain't got me though. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I ain't say nigga because this wasn't a black guy. I said, can I just get a meeting? And he was like, yeah, we'll see if we can get you a meeting just to go meet the guys because you might be on the show. Mm-hmm. So a general might be cool for you to go meet the guys and let them know you. You know, we understand how big you are in Detroit and that'd be a good look for you. I'm like, bet. So we go to the meeting, but the show turns out to be about an advertising agency. Mm-hmm. And two dudes, best friends, are taking it over. And that's my background. I come from advertising. Really? I worked at Global Hue for like 2.5 years.
Oh, damn, the biggest black-owned
advertising agency ever, but, you know, in the world, you know what I'm saying? You know, and so I just had a lot of experiences. Number one, that agency the headquarters was in Detroit. Mm-hmm. So I was a Detroiter, I was working at an ad agency, and I was a comedian, and I felt like those three things, and I was a writer, those three things, variable-wise, were enough to get me, you know, the job in my mind. Yeah. And I was right. They were like, oh, what? And we started talking about stories, and they just liked my stories, and so they said, we don't have any room, but we're gonna invite you anyway, which I thought was pretty dope, you know? Once again, being optimistic about possibilities, you just never know. You know, a door was closed. Sometimes you gotta just slide your shit in, you know what I'm saying? It was important for me. Yeah. So that's how I approached it.
Dope. Where did that optimism come from?
I mean, you got the psychiatrist over here, but I'm gonna tell you, honestly, being the only child. And you know, when I got home, the food that I had in the refrigerator was there and I expected it. Like if I left Mario on pause for 10 hours while I was at school, I got home, that shit was on pause. I didn't have nobody to tell me that, you know, my little imagination wasn't cool and, you know, so I just, you know, I have a very excellent look on life, which is like, you know, it might happen. Mm-hmm. I've made some things happen that I was very astounded with myself. Yeah. And so it's just, you know, it's like everything is possible and that's how I want to treat it.
What's some wild shit you've been able to accomplish?
Oh man, well, how much time you got? You know, I've done a lot. I've been a comedian for 10 years. I just had my 10-year anniversary, June 30th. You know, I just got back from Montreal. It's like the #1 comedy festival in the world. And I've done it before, but I've done it in a very small capacity. So this year, you know, just a testament to how much work I've been putting in. I was there for 2 weeks, and I was, you know, like on a show, 1,500 people, with like a lot of top names in comedy. We did it every night, and you know, that's just huge because that's the international market. Yeah. And to be there, #1 is dope, but to be in that capacity where my face was on billboards, you know what I'm saying? Like that was a big deal to me. Yeah. And I let myself enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? I let myself be proud of myself for that. I'm an executive producer. I've sold about 6 or 7 shows now. You wouldn't expect that, but it's crazy that I started my career selling the show. I had a cartoon that I sold to FX, and I ended up attaching P. Diddy to it because I was on Empire. Right, and so, and I hate talking about Empire because I was only on like 4 episodes, right? But the reason why it always gets brought up is because how big that season was. right? That was like TV history to be a part of that, the first season of Empire, because they set all those records. And shout out to them, man. Lee Daniels, Leah Butler, it's an amazing thing that they put together. Yeah. But what I saw was, being on the inside, paying attention, I saw that all of the characters had record deals. And I was like, oh shit. And so, basically they do music on the show, and then when the show goes off, the music is for sale. As an executive producer, that's astounding, right? That's bread, that's an opportunity. And if you set it up like that going into it, then, you can cash in on stuff like that. If you don't have the infrastructure, that's your fault. So I set it up. I went to Diddy, I explained to him what the show was. I explained to him that there would be opportunities in the show where original music, just because the show was about 4 young black kids, they might rap some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? Yeah. And so Diddy was like, yup, I see it. And, everybody was looking for a show to be, like Empire at that time. So we attached Diddy. And for me to do that on my own, just networking without the network helping me, I brought him to the table. And that just got me a lot of respect. And so what I saw was that people wanted to sign me because I already had it going on. And what I tell people all the time is that, you can't beg these white folks to do you no favors. You really got to beg them to do them favors. And it's a switch on perspective that I don't think people really quite understand. You got to beg them to be able to do them favors. And I hate the word beg, but I mean, you have to, that's what you need to be going for, because they don't really need you. Like, every show on TV don't got you on it. 100% of them don't got you on it. So, and they're making bread and they're cashing checks off of that. And so they're not up at night like, who's the next guy? That's not how it works. You have to approach them with an opportunity, with the offer that they can't refuse. And then that is what becomes, that's the game. I think that a lot of times, you look at like people like Big Sean and people like that who go and they rapping for Kanye, and that's a dream. I feel like it was very dope what he did, but I feel like that might have fucked up a lot of people's expectations of what it meant to get it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, everybody can't freestyle for somebody. Everybody can't, so it's not like that. So that became like my thing. That was my money, selling shows, and I was good at it because I had the gift of gab. And, I remember Malik Yoba gave me some advice. He was like, man, it's 1,000 ways to get into the industry. Yeah. 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be somebody's cousin, you could be somebody's PA, you could be singing at the crafty table. It's just a bunch of different things. And so for me, I think I had to let go of the arrogance of somebody needs to let me on because I'm funny. And I started leaning on the intelligence side of it and leaning on the executive side of it. And then, that's how it popped.
What'd you study?
Digital media arts.
Okay.
So it was basically like film school for what film is now, which is a digital medium that anybody can do versus the big grandeur of it. To show you how to take your phone camera or your DSLRs or, your Reds and et cetera, and turn those into, what we know now as the film industry. Back then, it was like a lot of analog, a lot of red tape, a lot of stuff that was not gonna be the future. And so, my major was studying the future of it, which is now the present of it. But I've always seen the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall is this: if you want to be an actor, make the scene, do the scene. There's no excuse for you not to be an actor because you can direct it yourself. People want to be down with somebody else so bad, but now is the time more than ever for you to be the star in your own movie and literally just do it. And everybody will respect it. And so if you don't have that mindset, then you really don't belong, because it's a hustler's game. You know what I'm saying? So, the early bird and all of that, what it pertains to is it's the hustling bird. It's the bird that's gonna get up and do it without somebody telling them to. My mom used to be like say that all the time, like, it's different when I gotta tell you to do it. And I never got that. But what she was saying was, it don't mean the same if somebody gotta coax you into it. You need to be doing it because you need to be doing it, and that's it. So anybody waiting to get put on, waiting in these long ass lines and trying to try out for BET and all that, and you don't have your own sizzle reel of you doing the scenes that you feel like are the scenes that you would kill, then you haven't done your due diligence. And so nobody owes you anything.
What's your vision for yourself? What's your vision for like where you want to take it? How far can this comedy shit go?
I study, but I don't study material. I like study intention, and I study like, you know, what makes it, like Richard Pryor, you know, he personifies stuff, right? That's a very, very key component in telling an animated style story, because the door could talk, or, you know, so you talk about things like Reggie Bo and how that came about, the influences people like Rich, you know. Eddie Murphy had a very, very good storytelling. Him and Bill Cosby, to me, told some of the best stories. And I'm a very in-depth storyteller in my comedy. Just different words that you choose that I feel like take people to the visual realm of understanding what I'm saying. I like Tommy Davidson a lot back in the day. I always was gravitated towards him and Jim Carrey. High energy guys. I think Jamie Foxx is one of the, like, my favorite comedians that I've met and worked with. You know, he was very talented. He did more stuff than just comedy, the singing and the playing the pianos, and, you know, like having a Grammy. I was at his house, he had a Grammy and an Oscar next to each other. You understand? That's like, man, like, you know, I would love a Grammy. I don't even do shit Grammy worthy, you know what I'm saying? But I would love a Grammy, you know? Kevin Hart, I like the way that he's showing us. Okay, put it like this. Kevin Hart is like Drake to me, right? And here's what I mean by that when I say that. Drake is the caliber, in my opinion, of a Biggie and a Tupac as far as influence, right? He shows what happens if they live, right? And they become, you know, you don't think Biggie is sitting courtside at the Nets in Brooklyn and that's his team, and, you know, some of the things that we see Drake and Jay-Z and these rappers do, which is getting past the phase that I feel like some of our favorite rappers never got a chance to get past, right? So I think that what that does is it shows you a bigger side to what it means to be a rapper. Kevin Hart has done that with, you know, things that I think Eddie Murphy stopped short of, things that I think Richard Pryor in the 70s and 80s that wasn't necessarily available to a black man to have that kind of business. And so I think that Kevin Hart is taking it to the next level, and that's where I feel like I can see myself taking it. It just makes me happy to make people laugh, and so I just want to keep doing that. You know, everything else take care of itself. You know, the money is there. You know, my family's happy. You know, my daughters get to do stuff that, you know, it's like, man, I'm providing off of jokes.
Take me back to growing up. You said you were a single child.
I was the only child. I had mad hoes. It's like, no, I'm bullshit. I'm playing. But no, I was the only child.
You the only child. And now we talked about, like, a lot of comedians experiencing trauma and that informing their comedy. You know what I'm saying? It's very common. I've seen this. Like, explain that reality.
It's your outlook on that trauma that turns you into a comedian. It's the idea that I can make anything funny because I've gotten to a point where I've convinced myself that nothing hurts my feelings anymore. You know what I'm saying? My dad coming to get me on Friday and I'm waiting, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, you turn the crying into, man, look at my dumb ass out here looking stupid. My ability to find myself and be myself without nobody holding me for it. That's what gave me the optimism that I could do anything. And so, you know, I like making people laugh. It started in 3rd grade. You know, I started making niggas laugh in 3rd grade. They was loving my shit. And then 4th grade, I told my first like real joke that was quick, like what we just said. So,
you remember it?
Hell yeah, nigga, what? All right, so look. So we in 4th grade, natural science, right? The teacher is like, all right, so there's this thing that beavers build to hold their young. It actually stops the river flow, but it gives them like a semi-aquatic, amphibiotic nature, right? I don't know if amphibiotic is a word, but that's a dog-ass made-up word. Amphibiotic, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, and so obviously the answer is damn, right? But in 4th grade, that's also a curse word too. Bam, raised my hand. She was like, Chris. I was like, damn. Damn, I had it. Damn. And even she was laughing. And she was like, that's so, and everybody, we had to take a laugh and break. But I was like, I thought of that. It punned, it made sense. And it's like, I like how that felt. I like how people looked at me. People let the comedian have a break. I done told jokes to cops and got let go. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my boy, me and my boy Ron Taylor and my boy Jeff Horace was on our way to a comedy club. We got pulled over. And I'm like, we comedians. He said, oh yeah? Tell us. I felt like a fat heartbeat. You know what I'm saying? He was like, tell me a joke. I had that motherfucker rolling. You know what I'm saying? He was like, get out of here. I was like, nigga, I got so much weed in this bitch. You know what I'm saying?
That's fire. Mike, when you hear that, we got a clinical psychologist right here, or clinical therapist. Clinical therapist. When you hear that he's a single child, only child, and he can be himself and not get hold, what's your take on that?
So he hit it dead on. It's like the perspective. So two kids can grow up in the same house, experience the exact same trauma, but look at it differently, have total different lives. So you can have one kid, dad left, it's terrible. That kid go off to school, that kid creates a beautiful family, marries, children, everything is great. Then you have the other kids like, yeah, dad left, I'm a crackhead. They experience the same thing, but it's the way that they looked at their trauma. So I think the first thing that I thought about when he said he was the only child, I was like, support. Was both his parents in the house? Because for you to have that ambition and have that optimism and have that drive, what comes in my mind first is, well, did you have the same support?
My parents were very cool. And what I mean by that is like, I feel like coolness skips a generation. Because they were so cool, I had to be very responsible. Because, my parents was house parties and go Chris, go Chris. I was jitting and shit. I was like they boy. We joke about it all the time, like we grew up together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just, they really liked me, and I liked the fact that they liked me like that. Like, I wasn't never like, stay in a kid's place. It was like, Chris, what you think? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, my mom would be like, parent-teacher conferences, at first it used to hurt her feelings about them telling her like, look, this nigga don't know how to sit down. And he don't let nobody finish their work. He gets all A's, and everybody else is getting D's because they laughing at his shit. And so then my mom, it turned into, all right, look, we starting a new school, so you need to get cool with the teacher so she don't kick you out. Like, you need to learn how to be political. And I was like, okay. And I took that, and every school, even all through college, like I was, I'd take like donuts up to the office, you know what I'm saying? Just was cool. And if I got kicked out of class in high school, my principal would be like, what you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, here, go, you working for me this hour, go do it. And what I saw was that everybody want to laugh. There's a time and a place for it, but it's also a way to go about it. My mom used to always tell me everything is negotiable. I used to hate that, because I'm like, Mom, I'm a black man. Don't nobody want to negotiate with me, but it is. But it's always an angle, and you have to learn to look at it like that. And so I think that, that, and then my dad is just very like, my dad is, everybody will meet my dad like, oh yeah, okay, this is you. Like, we used to do stuff like, we used to go downtown and kick white people. Like literally, he'd put me on his shoulders, we'd go to the fireworks, and so I would be on his shoulders, and he'd take my foot and walk up behind the white person and be like, bloop, Chris! Chris! And so I used to love that, right? And so I started putting more into it. He'd be like, whoa, okay, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Fucking get somebody a concussion, you know what I'm saying? But just, the kind of parents that I had, man, we went through shit. And I saw them go through shit. And I think a lot of my friends' parents try to maintain this level of perfection in front of their kids. And if you don't think that your parents is real people, then how you gonna be a real person?
Yeah. How did you and your wife meet? College or what?
College, yeah. Went to Michigan State.
Yeah, me and my wife met in college too.
It's important, man. She knew me before I was this. And I guess that's a good and a bad thing. A wedge can come between, it's like, I don't want my wife to look at me like, oh, you done became all of that now. You know what I'm saying? That's like a scary thing to me. But it's like, how do I combat that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
For me, I felt that same thing. I'm a barber, and I'm taking barbering
to the next
I'm
level.
digitizing the shit.
Yeah.
I want to digitize the conversations that happen in this space. You know what I'm saying? And I want to give people access to what I have access to. You know what I'm saying? And I want to TED Talk this shit. I want to masterclass this shit. You know what I'm saying? And really elevate our community through it. And I think that people see it and people love it and people respect it. But then at a certain point, I would go home and I would feel like it's not that same love to the, using that word lightly. It's not the same admiration, so to speak, right? And I think that you do need that validation. Well, I did, and I can speak for myself. I needed validation from my wife, not these motherfuckers. So then it turned into like me becoming frustrated about it. And then it turned into like me expressing that frustration and wanting to control and wanting, you know what I'm saying? Like damn near flex on my wife. And then it turned into like her withholding sex from me. And that came from like her saying like, well, I feel like all this good shit is happening for you and you doing this and you doing that. And one of the only things I have control of is my own body. And I was like, damn. And I looked at myself like, I'm causing a lot of shit. I'm not handling the shit right.
You don't want to be locked out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's facts.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And it was just crazy.
What's wrong with my kid?
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Right.
And it just was like spiraling out of control. But it took her helping me understand, like, this is what I'm feeling, and this is how I'm expressing it. Like, this is what I have control of. Right. And then I understood, I got to chill the fuck out. You know what I'm saying?
As a man, and I tell my wife all the time, like, because she is like, she don't play when it comes to, like, she's very protective over me. Then now you have all this Instagram and the hot girl summer and all these things, and my wife be like, don't be one of these dumbass niggas out here that's liking shit that, you got a wife at home, you liking pictures, and I agree with that, right? I don't want to lose my kids, I don't want to lose my family, but I don't want to, happy wife, happy life. Women are a completely different creature than we are. And when your wife is upset with you, it's like a dark cloud on the whole house.
I can speak to that fear. I remember I was just telling Che Pope when we talked, I said, bro, I watched the Quincy documentary on Netflix and cried. And it wasn't because he was like this inspiring guy that was touching so many lives. It was because he said the only thing that he has not done well
His woman.
is like his marriage.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Gab and Early, I said, bro, I'm about to open these barbershops where they're gonna go crazy. I'm gonna become who I am, or who the vision I have for myself. I said, I fear I'm gonna lose it all, like fucking over my wife. But like I said, success is gonna breed like these things. And Early was like, nah, bro, we came too far. Yeah. We're not fucking shit up no more. It's He's like, it's no more self-sabotage. We good. You know what I'm saying?
But see, I'm gonna tell you, that's not all on you, right? It's not all on you neither. Yeah. What it is the conversations need to be had where we gotta just flat out have the conversation with our wife without being afraid. Like, I'm flat out, and I'd be like, man, I'm such a bitch when it comes to her, dog. I'd be like, she'd be like, what you said? Like, I didn't listen. Because what I said was, it's like, it's not that I'm trying to be, it's just that society has taught us that we have to protect our women, even from us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, there's that mindset of like, I wish that we could have the conversation about what I struggle with, because then I wouldn't feel like I'm dealing with it alone. Yeah. And then I would have your opinion about it in my head when I face difficult things.
Yeah. What Gab did, no, it wasn't what Quincy said, it was what my wife said. I said, Gab, you see, he done built all this and then like failed at the most important shit that he thinks is the most important shit. And I said, I fear I'm gonna fail that way. Like, cause I damn near feel like I gotta be perfect in order to succeed in this space. And she said, you ain't gotta be perfect, I ain't going nowhere. And I was like, damn, I start crying, bro.
That's deep.
You know what I'm saying?
That's dope.
And it took the pressure off of like never fucking up, never like not being perfect, you know what I'm saying? And I realized also like it's this masculinity that we live with, but it's also like that's bolstered up, right? It's bolstered up out here. So when you come home and you're not being shown that same admiration, your masculinity is not being boosted, it feels demasculating to a certain extent.
Well,
and
I
so
mean,
I want you to speak to that.
No.
Marriage, so on and so forth.
No, they're not. But I think you guys hit it on the head. It starts with the conversation. But conversation like this takes vulnerability, especially with your spouse. It takes that you can't be afraid that they're going to reject you or they're not going to understand. So if you go into the conversation with they're not going to understand, your objective is not to get them to understand. It's like, I'm going to tell you, you're going to tell me you don't understand, that's going to be that. I'm just going to do what I'm doing because I already knew you weren't going to understand. So it starts with the conversation, number one. And then two, you got to take the expectations off, right? So I tell my clients all the time, when you go into a conversation, it's not necessarily what the person is going to do or what the person is going to say. You get out what you need to get out. You say what you need to say. A lot of times, you know, women create this atmosphere where their husbands can either be vulnerable or not be vulnerable. And we put a lot of pressure on the wife to be that person for the man. But then two, the man can also create a space like, listen, I'm about to come to you vulnerable. I'm about to tell you what it is. I don't know how you're going to respond, but you're my wife. I need to get this out of there. And then that transfer, then she can say, you know what? And you being out here makes me feel this way, or you makes me feel that way. Because the thing is, we expect people to know how we feel without ever telling them how we feel. And that's not fair. Having those conversations, telling them how you feel, really how you feel, listening to how they feel, and coming to a compromise. Having those conversations and being able to come to a solution. Because without the conversation, without the vulnerability, everybody's blindsided until something happens. And then it's like, what the heck? You didn't even tell me. I didn't even know. So, but I think you guys hit it on the head, like having that conversation then too, like your wife not really knowing what you're experiencing. And then you not being home knowing what she's really experiencing. And then there's different experiences with the same exact situation. Like I was talking earlier, we're in the same house, we experience the same trauma, but we're looking at this totally different. And the only way we're gonna look at it the same is if we have a conversation. And I think another thing that society has done is made men feel that they can't be vulnerable, that they can't have anything wrong with them, that they can't, you know, have their feelings hurt, or they can't feel a type of way about a situation. So not only is society creating this masculinity that you talked about, this toxic masculinity, but even in our like networks, like had this not been a situation where you're like, okay, I know I'm about to come in here and have this conversation, I know that this is that, you may have had a conversation with your barber, but it may not have been as vulnerable. You may not have peeled back some of the layers that you peeled back. You may not have talked about all of your weak moments, because men have to be strong. And then in the home, men got to be strong. Oh, my wife's sad, I can't be sad today. My wife upset about this, I got to make sure I'm, you know, this, but why can't we be sad together? Like, why do I have to suppress what I'm feeling, and vice versa? The way we've grown up, and the way, like you said, we see men on TV cheating, we hear about men cheating. Women don't cheat, women are perfect, but no, women do. And women have the things going on too, or it's like we see women crying, women their feelings are hurt, you know, she's having a bad day. Men don't cry, men don't have bad days. Men get it together, they come home, they give the check to the wife, they do their thing. But no, men are sad too. They want to cry too, they're frustrated too, but we are toxic. We've grown up toxic. We've seen toxicity, and it's just become like a cultural norm. Yeah. And it takes us courageous people, one, to have the conversation. Then not only just have the conversation, but just reminding ourselves, like, I know I'm toxic. I know that this isn't a good idea. Let me challenge myself. And then I'll challenge my family. Then I'll set an example for my daughters, that they'll challenge themselves. They'll challenge their husbands. So yeah, it's just like a continuous, like, undoing this cycle, peeling back those layers. And we were talking earlier, Sebastian and I, it's scary and it hurts. And it's not pretty all the time.